If you've ever wondered why some people seem to move through life with clarity, always 2 steps ahead, while others struggle confused and reactive, the answer often comes down to one word: strategy. And at the heart of strategy is a principle that comes from one of the oldest military texts in the world, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. A principle so powerful that it has guided emperors, generals, business leaders, athletes, and even everyday people trying to live better lives. The principle is this: if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. These words were written more than 2,500 years ago, yet they still echo with truth today. Why? Because whether you're fighting in war, competing in business, navigating relationships, or even struggling with your own inner battles, success depends on 2 things: self-awareness and awareness of others. Let's break this down and explore how you can apply it to modern life. Part 1. Knowing yourself, the foundation of strength. Sun Tzu begins with the idea that the first and most important battle is within. You cannot face the world effectively if you don't know who you are. But what does knowing yourself really mean? It means understanding your strengths, weaknesses, habits, and triggers. It means being brutally honest about where you excel and where you fall short. It means asking difficult questions. Asterisk, what motivates me? Asterisk, what drains me? Asterisk, what am I afraid of? Asterisk, what patterns keep repeating in my life? Too often, we move through life blind to ourselves. We chase careers that don't fit us. We stay in relationships that harm us. We copy other people's paths instead of creating our own. Knowing yourself gives you clarity. It's like switching on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you see the furniture, the obstacles, and the doors you can walk through. Example: career and work. Imagine 2 people entering the workforce. One has taken time to reflect on their strengths. They know they thrive in creative environments. They need collaboration, and they get bored with repetitive tasks. The other has never reflected. They simply follow what others say is safe or successful. 10 years later, the first person has built a career that energizes them. The second feels trapped in a job that pays the bills but kills the soul. The difference? Self-knowledge. Example: health and habits. The same applies to health. Maybe you've tried diets or exercise routines that never worked. Knowing yourself means understanding your rhythms. Maybe you're not a morning person, so those 5 a.m. workouts always failed. Maybe you crave structure, so flexible dieting feels overwhelming. When you know yourself, you stop forcing square pegs into round holes. You design systems that fit you. The enemy within. Here's something Sun Tzu implies but doesn't say outright. Sometimes you are your own worst enemy. How often do we sabotage ourselves with procrastination, negative self-talk, or chasing instant gratification? Knowing yourself means identifying those patterns. For example, maybe you realize you delay important tasks when you feel overwhelmed. Instead of beating yourself up, you build strategies to break tasks into smaller steps. By naming your inner enemy, you rob it of power. Part 2. Knowing the enemy. Awareness of others. The second half of Sun Tzu's principle is about others. It's not enough to know yourself. You must also study the people, systems, and environments around you. In war, this meant studying enemy armies, their strengths, their weaknesses, their morale, their supply lines. In modern life, it can mean many things. In business, if you run a business, the enemy might be your competitors. Do you know what they offer? Do you know where they are weak? Do you know where customers are dissatisfied with them? Great businesses don't just focus inward, they study the field. That's why Apple didn't just build a phone. They studied where existing phones frustrated people Clunky buttons, poor design, lack of integration, and they built something better. In relationships. In personal relationships, knowing the enemy doesn't mean treating people like adversaries. It means understanding them deeply. Asterisk. What does your partner need when they're upset? Space or comfort? Asterisk. What drives your friend's behavior? Insecurity, ambition, fear? Asterisk. What are your colleagues' unspoken motivations? When you understand others, you stop reacting blindly. You stop assuming everyone thinks like you. Instead, you approach situations with empathy and foresight. In negotiations. Think about a negotiation, whether it's for a salary, a contract, or even who does the chores at home. If you know what the other side truly values, you can shape your approach. Maybe your boss doesn't care as much about salary, but cares deeply about loyalty. You negotiate for flexibility instead of just money. Maybe your roommate doesn't care about washing dishes, but cares about fairness, so you propose a system that feels balanced. Knowing others gives you leverage without hostility. Part 3. The balance between self and others. Sun Tzu's quote has 3 outcomes, which he makes very clear. 1. Know yourself and know your enemy. Victory guaranteed. 2. Know yourself but not your enemy. 50-50 chance. 3. Know neither yourself nor your enemy. Guaranteed defeat. Think about that. Even if you're strong and capable, if you don't understand others, your success is uncertain. And if you don't know yourself or others, you're walking into life completely blind. The balance is what matters. True strategy is not selfish, nor is it entirely outward-focused. It is both. Part 4. Applying this to modern challenges. Let's ground this wisdom into the everyday challenges you might face. 1. Career planning. Before chasing a promotion or switching industries, ask, asterisk, do I know what environment I thrive in? Asterisk, do I know what skills I naturally excel at? Asterisk, do I understand the industry trends and where opportunities lie? This is know yourself, know your enemy applied to the job market. 2. Relationships. Before committing to a partner, ask, asterisk, do I know my own attachment style, needs and boundaries? Asterisk, do I understand my partner's triggers, dreams and fears? Many relationships fail not because of lack of love, but because of lack of understanding of oneself and the other. 3. Personal growth. When trying to break a habit or achieve a goal, ask, asterisk, do I know my patterns of self-sabotage? Asterisk, do I understand the obstacles in my environment? For example, if you want to save money, but you ignore your impulsive spending habits and the targeted ads designed to exploit them, you'll lose the battle. Part 5. Tools for self-knowledge. So how do you know yourself better? 1. Journaling. Write daily about your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Patterns emerge over time. 2. Feedback from others. Ask trusted friends or mentors how they see you. Sometimes others notice what we can't. 3. Personality assessments. Tools like Myers-Briggs, StrengthsFinder, or Enneagram aren't perfect, but they give language to describe yourself. 4. Mindfulness. Meditation or simple awareness exercises help you notice thoughts and feelings without judgment. 5. Trial and error. Self-knowledge comes through action. Try new things. Notice how you respond. Part 6. Tools for knowing others. And how do you know the enemy, or rather understand the people around you? 1. Observation. Watch body language, tone, and behavior. People reveal more than they say. 2. Listening more than talking. Ask questions and let others speak. Most people reveal their values if you give them space. 3. Study patterns. In business, study competitors' strategies. In personal life, study recurring behaviors in your relationships. 4. Empathy practice. Imagine yourself in their shoes. What fears or desires might be driving them? 5. Research. If you're entering a negotiation, read about the other party. If you're entering a market, analyze the trends. Part 7. Common pitfalls. Sun Tzu's wisdom is simple, but applying it can be tricky. Let's look at some common mistakes. 1. Overconfidence in self-knowledge. Sometimes we think we know ourselves, but we cling to outdated identities. Maybe you still see yourself as bad at math because of childhood, even though you've grown. Self-knowledge must evolve. 2. Demonizing others. Seeing others as enemies can breed hostility. The goal is understanding, not hatred. 3. Information overload. You can spend forever analyzing yourself and others without taking action. Remember, Sun Tzu wrote about war. Action is essential. 4. Ignoring context. Knowing yourself and others must also include knowing the environment. A great warrior in the wrong terrain still loses. Part 8. Victory without battle. Here's where the wisdom becomes truly powerful. Sun Tzu didn't glorify endless fighting. He said the greatest victory is the one won without battle. When you know yourself and others so well, you can often avoid conflict entirely. You predict problems before they arise. You steer situations into harmony. In business, this might mean creating partnerships instead of rivalries. In relationships, it might mean diffusing arguments before they explode. In personal life, it might mean designing habits that remove temptation instead of constantly fighting willpower. This is strategy at its highest level. Part 9. A modern story of self and others. Consider the story of a young entrepreneur. She wanted to launch a product in the crowded fitness industry. Instead of blindly rushing in, she studied herself first. She realized she hated logistics, but loved branding and storytelling. She partnered with someone whose strength was supply chain. Then she studied the enemy, not to destroy them, but to learn. She noticed competitors ignored plus-sized athletes. She saw frustration in online communities about lack of representation. By knowing herself and knowing others, she carved out a niche that exploded with success. This wasn't luck, it was strategy. Part 10. Bringing it home. So let's return to Sun Tzu's words. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. In modern terms, if you understand your own strengths and weaknesses, and you understand the people and systems around you, you dramatically increase your odds of success. If you only know yourself, but ignore others, you'll stumble in the dark. If you know neither, life will constantly overwhelm you. The path of strategy is the path of awareness. Awareness of self, awareness of others, awareness of context. And when you walk that path, you stop living reactively. You stop being surprised by life's challenges. Instead, you move with clarity, foresight, and confidence. Closing reflection. Here's a simple exercise you can start today. 1. Write down 3 truths about yourself. 1 strength, 1 weakness, and 1 blind spot you're trying to uncover. 2. Then choose 1 person in your life, a partner, friend, or colleague, and write down what you know about their needs, fears, and goals. 3. Finally, ask yourself, if I combine these 2 insights, how could I approach my next interaction differently? This small practice can transform your relationships, your work, and your sense of direction. Remember, Strategy isn't just for generals. It's for anyone who wants to live with purpose instead of chaos. Know yourself. Know others. And you'll find that life becomes less about endless battles and more about meaningful victories.